What if Islam loses to JDM at UFC 322? We are potentially living in two completely different timelines of the UFC. Let's get into it. This fight truly is one of those sliding door moments. Two completely different futures depending on one result. Islam wins, he officially surpasses Khabib's legacy, achieving what his mentor never did by becoming a two-division UFC champion. But if he loses, everything will change. His place in history becomes kind of uncertain, and this invincible Dagestani aura continues to crack. We just saw it with Umar losing against Marab. That was the first time we truly saw someone from this camp and this close to Khabib lose their undefeated streak, and in such a big fight. If Islam loses to JDM, the narrative towards these Dagestani fighters is going to change drastically, similar to what we saw with the fighting nerds earlier this year. The first theme that I want to explore is the shadow of Khabib. I just made a video about this on Umar, talking about how he is currently stuck in that shadow of Khabib. One thing I mentioned about Islam is how he's kind of the outlier when you look at these guys coming from that same camp. Early on in his UFC career, he was definitely in Khabib's shadow because Khabib achieved so much greatness, it's hard to separate the two.
Everyone puts pressure on you to be the next Khabib. What do you think about that? Do you like that people keep saying that?
If somebody say I'm like Islam, like almost same like Khabib, I agree with this. I wanna be like Khabib, you know?
But I think slowly through time, Islam became so dominant in his own right, developing his own fighting style where he would constantly hunt submissions and even get knockouts at times. And as his career has went on, the fans have been able to separate the two because of the different fight styles. But a win here against JDM would completely separate him from Khabib. Becoming a two-weight division champ is something that Khabib never achieved, and it's something that the fans always wanted to see from him, but he never moved up because of his early retirement. Psychologically, this is huge, and I know Islam in the past has said that, you know, there's no competition between him and Khabib.
You are trying to accomplish something that Khabib never did.
We never talk about this, and you know, for me it's the stupid questions, you know, because he's my brother, you know. If he don't want to I beat his record, he never helped me, you know, but not question which one I want to answer, like I beat Khabib record or something like this, you know.
Which I fully believe, but I think this drive to outdo Khabib could be an important factor for Islam in his motivation for his fight against JDM. This next theme is the aftermath of defeat. If Islam Makhachev loses, this will throw the lightweight and welterweight division into absolute chaos. He already said that returning to 155 would be brutal and that his new home is permanently at welterweight. He has also kind of opened the door to that Ilia Topuria fight at lightweight, but I do kind of think it's more likely that Ilia would move up to welterweight to challenge Islam than Islam moving back down. You never know, if like Islam says and Dana White pays in big bucks, which is unlikely.
If I have to cut 155, man, it's gonna be hard. Then I might have to pay for this.
I don't have my hopes up. But if Islam loses to JDM, staying at welterweight just wouldn't make much sense either. That would be such a weird thing for us as UFC fans to see Islam as a contender in this welterweight division. I just personally can't imagine that. I've always seen Islam as the champ, and it's just hard to see him otherwise. So even seeing him fight for a fight that's not a belt would just completely strip that aura away. And who would he even fight as a contender? Like Bilal, Shavkat? There's just not a great pool of options for him. I guess you could do Kamaru Usman versus Islam for like a #1 contender, but even that, I just don't know if it makes the most sense. Also, one thing I think a lot of people aren't pointing out is Islam turns 35 next year, which isn't old, but it's also not young in terms of MMA. This is kind of like when a fighter reaches their peak or is just starting to stagnate or even slowly decline. So if he does lose, do we really see Islam making a comeback at the age of 35? Islam has already said he doesn't want to be in the fight game for too long. We saw how early Khabib retired, and if Islam loses to JDM, this could really accelerate his retirement. I also just would not see the UFC giving him an immediate rematch to JDM, considering that he's never fought in this division before, and Islam moving up has already stalled the welterweight division enough, but I could see the UFC giving him an immediate title shot at lightweight. So this is one of those rare matchups where the UFC has just as much to lose as the fighter themselves. This next theme is JDM's moment of truth. For Jack Della Maddalena, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. He might genuinely be one of the luckiest UFC champions of all time. To come from being relatively unknown just a couple of years ago to beating Gilbert Burns and then kind of getting leaped into a title shot because of other people pulling out or being injured, to now fighting at Madison Square Garden for his first title defense and potentially becoming the #2 pound for pound fighter, it doesn't get much better than that. Like I said, a win here could shoot him up to #2 pound for pound, and this would also be the first time an Australian Australian has been able to defeat this Dagestani style, and that is something that Volkanovski and Dan Hooker failed. This would put JDM in the same breath as other legends that had ended these unbelievable dynasties. Take Leon Edwards against Kamaru Usman, Strickland against Israel Adesanya. It kind of gives me that same vibe here. These champions that go on these undefeated reigns and just look so incredibly good, and then they come up against a guy that a lot of people are writing off. It's kind of giving me that upset feeling here. This just feels so poetic. An Australian coming out of the same gym, getting his revenge on these Dagestanis. Let's talk about this next theme, which is the stylistic battle. Islam's biggest and potentially only hole in his fight game is his striking defense. We saw him get tagged up by Dustin Poirier and even rocked by Volk at one point, both guys that are significantly smaller than JDM. And when you look at JDM, his power and precision is on a complete another level. His key to victory here isn't stopping the takedowns, because he's going to get taken down regardless in this fight. It's about being comfortable in the ground and being able to survive the scrambles and get back up to your feet, similar to how Volk and even Poirier did, which could potentially tire Islam out and make him vulnerable on the feet. I truly do believe that if JDM is able to keep this fight standing for at least half of the fight, the damage that JDM will inflict will start to add up on Islam, especially to the body. Not to mention, this might be a hot take, but Islam's cardio has shown cracks in the past, particularly in that Dustin Poirier and Volkanovski fight. I think if you're JDM, you should definitely be studying those two specific fights to really formulate a good game plan against it. The next theme I want to talk about here is the psychology of pressure. For Islam, this isn't just another fight. It's the first time in his career that he's truly fighting from a position of loss. Khabib retired untouched, while Islam risks tarnishing the undefeated aura that's defined his team's identity. When not only your entire fan base, but your entire country sees you as the next heir to that kind of legacy, that's an insane amount of pressure to be put under. Whereas for JDM, this is pure freedom. Like I said, he kind of just got boosted into this position, and now he's in one of the luckiest positions a fighter could be in. He has so much to gain, but at the same time, not so much to lose. Granted, he is the champion, but he's not a superstar. He's not an extremely well-known fighter to the fan base. Not to mention, he is the underdog in this fight. A lot of people are writing him off to lose, which makes him dangerous. When you've got nothing to lose but everything to gain, that's when a true upset can happen. This last theme I want to talk about is what this could mean for the UFC. A loss for Islam here could be great for business short term, because they could get that Ilia Topuria fight, and not to mention an upset oftentimes drives a lot of chaos. We saw that with Israel Adesanya and Kamaru Usman. It gave these guys like Sean Strickland and Leon Edwards kind of like short term and momentary stardom, but long term, UFC loses one of their truly only big global stars. This could also kill the hype of Islam versus Topuria, because Islam won't have that aura of invincibility anymore, and it would probably sell a lot less if he does lose compared to if he wins against JDM. A JDM win here could create a new face for the welterweight division, someone that could be marketable and is also quite early on in their UFC career. Not to mention, he's also got an extremely exciting style to watch. But Islam losing, this could truly mark the end of that invincible Dagestani era. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Who are you rooting for in this fight? Make sure you guys do drop a like on this video, and make sure to subscribe as well, man. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.